Welcome back to the channel. Tune in or go stout. I've been unemployed for over a year now. A year and 7 days actually. Sounds insane to say, but seeing how cooked the job market actually is, I thought it would be a good time to check in and share what I've learned in this time in case you find yourself in this position in the future. I'm not wishing that on you, but maybe this could prepare you. To give some background on myself, I just turned 28 in October. And the reason I left my job is, like many other people, I was tired, lost, and I frankly was at the lowest point I've ever been, working a 9 to 5. I had a soul-sucking job in a dying industry. I worked for cable TV, and yeah, people don't watch cable anymore. And I knew I had to make some type of change in my life. With a small savings nest and a radical belief in myself, I took a leap of seeing what I could do to survive without a 9 to 5, and these are the key takeaways. Elite ball knowledge, you could say.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
1. Social media is a psyop to keep you a wage slave. I know that sentence had a lot of buzzwords, but hear me out. Social media will paint the unemployed friend as this type of gluttony fiend who sleeps in till 3 p.m., does nothing, plays video games, orders DoorDash, and has no discipline or routine, and will try to belittle you for not working a 9 to 5 or some type of regular job, while at the same time pushing ads to make you spend more than you have to stay into a debt trap. And you don't realize this because, when you have a job, most of these memes are funny. But when you become unemployed, on top of the mental toll unemployment is for some people, the lack of routine and the having to figure a lot of this stuff out yourself, it doesn't help when the social media apps are force feeding you content that makes you feel so much worse about yourself. One thing I had to do to even find peace in unemployment, because while it was a change I was looking forward to, it was more of a mental hurdle than anything, was finding purpose outside of a 9 to 5 or corporate job and taking a path least traveled. For me, that meant getting rid of Instagram completely. I was never really big on TikTok. I'm 28, so when TikTok became a thing, I remember I was just clowning everybody for using it. I had my head up my ass, to be fair. I stayed on Instagram. That's where all my friends were. But when I would watch Reels, it would be constantly making me feel bad about myself. And once I disconnected and pulled the plug on that, it became a lot easier to understand why I felt the way I felt. I went from having a structured lifestyle, no matter how unorganized I felt all the time and how lost I felt in my purpose. I knew what days I had to myself, what days I gave to the company, when I had to be there, how long I had to be there. I scheduled my sleep, my meals, everything around a schedule that I didn't really control. And once I got the freedom to make my own schedule, it became hard to manage everything I had to do to survive. But once I was able to get out of my head and out of my phone screen, I was able to gauge where I was and how I was actually doing. And along with that, I realized a lot of the toxic traits I was picking up from social media. Towards the end of my time at the job, I realized how much of a convenience fiend I became. I would have my food delivered. I would constantly be on Amazon trying to upgrade things that I never really needed to upgrade, and keeping any part of my paycheck for longer than the paycheck cycle felt impossible. I know we talk about investing on this channel and how the market does, but while I was working a job, I never really found the money to invest, even though I was bringing money in consistently. And that's when I realized that I was never able to get ahead when I had a job because I was so busy keeping up appearances. This is something that you can hear a million people say, but until you get realistic with yourself, you won't notice that you do to an extreme extent. So if you do enter this stage in your life, make sure to not let social media play the same role in your life when you were working a job that you hated. Social media, when you're not happy in your actual life, becomes an escape. When you choose to make large changes in your life, like leave a job, that's when you need to lock in the most. And this leads into the second tip I would give you. 90% of making money is mental. I, like a lot of people, wonder if I'm doing this life thing right. And I'm 28. I pictured a lot of different things for myself, but sometimes getting past your expectations and accepting the situation you're in will get you a lot further than fighting back the tide every single time. One of the first things I did once I left my job was finding that I needed to break down my expenses and get it to the cheapest possible amount. And luckily, I have a family that was understanding of my situation and allowed me to make this change in my life, and that saved me a ton of money because I'm not worried about paying rent. I know this is not everybody's situation, but if you have family that's willing to help you in this time in your life, I would say jump at the opportunity and take take it. Don't be too prideful and see it as a springboard for better opportunities and putting yourself in a better position in the future. Once you can detach the shame and stigma from money and understand that it's a tool for progression and accept that your lifestyle might have to change in some way, this is the point you understand where you're starting at. And I noticed that without rent, my monthly expenses were really not that much. You guys know me. After I got my first car almost 10 years ago, actually, in 2016, when I got my Acura TL, I've told you the story, got completely ripped off and ended up paying like $13,000 for a 2005 car at the time. It was a terrible deal. But once I was able to get out of that, paid that car fully off, I did get another car, but this time it was a old school BMW in cash, no payment. So I really haven't carried a car note in forever, and I don't plan on getting one anytime soon. And I was able to take care of a large chunk of my debt prior to leaving because I knew that if I didn't, it was going to eat away at whatever savings I was hoping to have, or I would have to enter collections, and I didn't want to do that. Once I waited it out, I had like car insurance, phone bill, and I would try to cover like the gas bill or electric for the house if I could, and it came out to about $500 a month. Once I was able to calculate how much I actually needed to live, the cost of living for myself essentially, I was able to understand that everything past that could be used to go towards a future that I was thinking of. At the time, I didn't know what that looked like because I was still figuring it out as I go, but knowing where I stood made it way easier to start anything else. If you don't have a plan in mind before you leave your job on how to make money, I will just warn you that you need to get prepared to be very creative. But that's why you need to understand that 90% of making money is mental. You can quite literally make money doing anything, and a lot of it has a low barrier to entry. During this time period of being unemployed, I've made money fixing cars, mounting televisions, doing some form of home improvement, graphic design, different forms of reselling, and even with this YouTube channel. When you break your mind free from being a worker, you realize that a lot of these things have extremely low barriers to entry. And it's pretty funny. Everybody thinks that you're going to make a bunch of money online, and some people are good at doing that really quickly. But there's also so much money in real life too. You just kind of have to be willing to put yourself out there, even if you're met with failure. You have to understand you're building a skill that you probably haven't trained in a while. You're learning how to make money. You're hustling. Many people don't have to do this, and that's why 9-to-5s are comfortable. They take the responsibility of maintaining yourself away and put it in a more safe and secure spot. You've lost that security, so you have to hustle. 3, lack of ambition does not equal freedom. Leaving your job does not mean you can play COD all day and stop striving for the things. As much as social media does try to lower your self-confidence by portraying this image, this is a very easy path to fall into. And to be honest, for that first month, maybe 2, you're gonna go through that phase. You're gonna try to enjoy the fruits of unemployment immediately, and then that will make you actually hate the spoils a lot. Just because you have nothing to do does not mean you will find pleasure in having a bunch of time to stay in a house and think about the nothing that you have to do. You still have to set goals for yourself, or you will fall into depression. This is something that you find out very quickly. Outside of social media, you are going to be your biggest critic. So if you feel like you're a bum, that is what you're going to embody, and that is not a good feeling to have about yourself ever. For some people, that can motivate them, but I found that for a large percent of people, that it demoralizes them more than anything. And from hearing other people's stories about unemployment, I've realized that this becomes a problem when the only reason you entered unemployment was because you hated your job. I know that sounds crazy, but for me, unemployment was partly because I hated my job, but also because I really saw no future in the 9-to-5 lifestyle. Money is cool, but I really craved freedom. I liked being the person who could take a road trip wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And when I saw the people that lived that lifestyle, it was very unconventional, and they did a lot of unconventional things to get there. So my goals were always pretty much set. Even in the slump that I went through at the start of it, I knew that I wanted to disconnect from a 9-to-5 lifestyle and find some way to do it. Whether that meant YouTube videos or that meant a million side jobs, it was a goal of mine to break free from this system. I've been working since about 16. My first job was at a Pizza Hut. I've worked through the entirety of my 20s in corporate America. I've done payroll management, and I ended up in broadcast engineering. At no point did I enjoy any of it. Well, that's not true, except when I worked at the Pizza Hut, because I would get free pizza and wings, and as a high schooler, that's really all you could ask for, on top of tips because I was a delivery driver. But I knew pretty much after that point that that working at a job was not going to be the thing that I want to do for a long time. And I tried for a long time to find meaning in it, but I thought that it would just be better to bet on myself if I'm going to be unhappy anyway. So to me, the goal has always been pretty clear, and that's what keeps me ambitious. But to fuel that ambition, I've had to set a lot of smaller goals along the way to keep my head in the game. Again, it's a big takeaway that you need to treat this part of your life as another stage in life. You are entering unemployment. This is not the finish line. And when you understand that, life still goes on. You have to worry about your health. You have to focus on your monetary goals. And you also have to set personal goals that are void of money or physical physique. That means expanding your mind, learning self-actualization, and actually knowing what purpose is. Because everybody talks about purpose, but they don't actually know what that is or know how to search for it. They just blindly keep looking at different avenues and paths, hoping for an answer. And if you don't know what you're looking for, then how do you know when you found it? So remember, lack of ambition does not equal freedom. Number 4, enjoy this time period in your life and don't feel guilty for enjoying it. Jobs, for the most part, fucking suck. And you might have an amazing job, so this doesn't apply to you, but for all the jobs that I've worked, wasn't worth it. Was not worth it. The gaslighting, the amount that I hated my coworkers, waking up 6 a.m., coming back with no energy to focus on anything but how much I hate the job that I have, and being in a constant state of anger, not worth it. Not worth it. I may have to go back to a job at some point, but I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh my God, I don't have any purpose because I'm not working this structured job. No, actually, I sometimes remember what it felt like to work a job and become so grateful that I'm not there anymore. This isn't to make your decision for you. If you have a job, especially in a time like this, 100% keep it, but I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I miss my job or I miss working 9 to 5. No, just don't feel that way. I'm not in any rush to give a company 38 more years of my life so I can maybe see retirement at 64. Probably going to be in the 70s by the time we get there. Yeah, fuck off. I'm not doing that. So while people will try to shame you for enjoying yourself, you have to just kind of ignore it. I feel like those are people's insecurities trying to rub off on you and shame you for finding out that life doesn't need to be cog in the machine work all the time. But enjoy the time that you have. Again, this is not the finish line. This is another stage. And with life, you got to take the ups with the downs. And that means appreciating all stages of life, regardless if it's the most positive or kind of one with the bleak outlook. Number 5, the path to success remains largely the same. Throughout this video, it's the same recurring message, no matter if I had a job or if I don't have the job. It just took me being without a job to realize it more clearly. Your life will get further and you will be happier the more frugal you live, the more open to learning you become, and the more you forgive yourself. In my life, I would have probably been happier if I understood these things prior to me being unemployed. Having to learn them while being unemployed felt like a lot and did put some real pressure on my shoulders. But now that I can reflect on that time and see where I'm at now and kind of how almost stress-free I've become, those are the 3 biggest takeaways. Being frugal will take away the pressures that money places on you to just live. When you live a life of abundance, it really does make life feel that much harder to actually enjoy. I have a buddy who makes over $3,800 a week and he still lives paycheck to paycheck, and he stresses about money more than I do. But at the same time, he orders DoorDash every day of the week. He has a car payment that is over $1,000 and he lives in one of the most expensive parts of the city, and he's late on rent right now actually. $3,800 can do a lot for you if you're smart with it. But if you have a consumer mindset, $3,800 will only last you so long. You will end up putting yourself into even more debt by opening up credit cards with high credit limits, and before you know it, you've dug a hole that you're not even digging yourself out of. You're just trying not to be buried in. So before that happens, get a grip, cut your costs, and I promise you, once you do the hard part, which is just starting, you will almost get addicted to saving money and finding ways to save money. While skipping out on avocado toast might not buy you a house, the small changes you make in your life do compound. After you learn how to save money, that's when you got to learn how to make money. And this is why you open yourself up to learn. In 2026, investing in a skill is basically free. YouTube University has always been a cheat code for the people willing to use it, but when you read the stats that college degrees have the same unemployment rate as people who've graduated high school, then it becomes an even more powerful tool. Again, all the side jobs I've done during unemployment, I've learned the skills from YouTube. How to mount a TV from YouTube. Even with some of the car stuff, I've learned some of the most vital vital things when it comes to repairing cars from Chris Fix. That is true elite ball knowledge. He's been dropping gems on how to fix cars for over a decade. That was actually the channel that taught me how to change my oil before I knew how to myself. But opening yourself up to these sort of skills can manifest into big things later on. My passion in my teen years of working and building cars has paid off a lot in my adulthood. I know how to change a transmission, how to take an engine out. Hell, I can even install a turbo. And while I didn't know it at the time, I was building real skills that I could apply to my everyday life and even make money off of those. So always keep your mind and your ears open to skill building. And lastly, forgive yourself. If you take anything away from this video, forgive yourself. I'm lucky to have a family that does not make me feel bad about this decision, but I've seen it countless times in people's unemployment stories. Their family or the world around them is the thing that makes it hard to go through this process at all. While it sounds like Gen Z complains a lot, I just don't think people really understand the job market that we're being faced with and the social dilemma that we're being faced with. A lot of the things that made work justifiable for the older generations was the understanding that it was to build towards a better future. Now that that brighter future seems so far away and the stats that are released on a weekly basis show that it's only getting further, it's hard to justify spending 40 years doing something you hate. And no matter how much you explain yourself or try to justify your reasons for doing this, the world will try their hardest to make you hate yourself for it. They'll call you lazy, they'll belittle your effort, and they'll look at you with disgust sometimes. But you gotta give yourself grace when nobody will. Telling yourself you're a failure or feeling like one does nothing for you or your mindset. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." If your thoughts are spent talking down on yourself and telling you how much you failed, then you're not gonna have a good life. So brother, for the love of God, give yourself some grace. But again, what do I know? I'm just an unemployed guy playing Call of Duty, sharing my opinion. I hope you were able to take something positive away from this. We've been spending a lot of time on world events. We'll get back to it, but I wanted to connect with you guys and check in after a year of unemployment. If you agree or disagree with anything I said in this video, let me know down below in the comments. I do read the comments. Is there light after the storm that is unemployment? Have you been unemployed? And if you have, what are some things you've done to cope, essentially? If you haven't already, like and subscribe to join the thread. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Until next time.